Wonderful. Thank you so much, Doc Steve, for joining me this evening, or for you afternoon, for the Frequency Podcast. It is an honor for you to be joining us, me particularly, and those of you that are watching at home. It is my great honor to introduce Doc Steve to you. Doc, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on today to share.
Yeah, so thank you so much. There's so many questions, and I know that lots of community members are watching. Would you start off a little bit? We have so much to share this evening, but I'm sure lots of us would love to hear a little bit about your story regarding frequencies, energy medicine, a little bit of, how you came to Healy, and then we'll kind of move on from there.
Absolutely, well, I'd love to. So I started out on June 1st, will be 45 years that I began my practice, initially in functional medicine. And I was always pretty much had a cutting edge practice, meaning, as they always said, I was about 10 years ahead of the pack. I was into prevention back then when nobody used the word prevention. I did a lot of work with nutritional medicine. And it was great because my focus had always been on what I called biochemical individuality, which means you don't treat the disease, you treat the underlying cause of disease. And the reason for that is really simple, because when you think about it, most Western docs who practice use pharmaceutical medicine. And basically what I believe they do is they just create what I call chronic patients. And the reason I say that is because, say, for example, you go to your family doctor or internist and you have elevated cholesterol levels. Well, the first thing he'll say to you is, we're going to put you on a statin medication to lower your cholesterol levels because they're dangerously high. And that's basically all he says. And he also says, usually, you'll be on that medication for the rest of your life. Gives no other information, offers no other advice about what a person can do on their own to make any kind of changes. So you basically are giving your power away to your physician to let him make all the decisions. And as we know, pharmaceutical meds all have side effects. And what I do is I work with a patient to find out what the underlying cause of the problem is, and then I work on that level. So instead of creating a chronic patient, in a very short period of time, I'm able to reverse the condition. And when the person, gets to be well, they're no longer tagged with that condition. I mean, the same thing with, for example, type 2 diabetes, which is rampant in the United States right now. It's really one of the biggest diseases out there because of people's eating habits. Yeah. Again, a person will go to a traditional physician and they'll say, well, we have a medication called metformin. It lowers sugar levels in the body. Before you become a type 2 diabetic, which is what most people are now becoming in the US due to overweight and other factors, you'll be on this medication for the rest of your life. I'm basically the guy, when patients come into my office, they bring their medications with them and I literally throw them in the garbage and say, well, wouldn't you like to be able to reverse your situation and your conditions without having to rely on pharmaceutical medication? And obviously, people always say, yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here to do that. And so when I work with people, I do an extensive, first of all, scan of them. I have a device that I have used for the past 20 plus years in my practice. It's similar to the Timewaver. I'm also a Timewaver practitioner, but this is pre-Timewaver. Right. So I kind of jumped a little ahead of myself here because I wanted to say that I was doing functional medicine up until the 1990s. It was great. I would make custom programs for my patients to tell them specifically the foods they shouldn't be eating, the supplements they should be taking. And, you can easily reverse a condition if you know how to work with the body naturally. For example, say the example that I used just now of a patient with high cholesterol and needing to be on a statin drug. Well, I think most people are totally unaware that when the study was first carried out back in the 80s, when they were testing statin drugs, they used another substance against it as a sort of a control, and that was niacin. And interestingly enough, they cut the study before it was completed, because they found out that patients that were taking niacin actually got better results in terms of lowering their cholesterol than patients that were actually taking statin drugs. So it goes to show you that, you know, our medicine these days is controlled by what I call big pharma. It's controlled by, you know, money, unfortunately.
Right.
And unless that really the consciousness begins to change, then that's the way, unfortunately, medicine will continue to be practiced. And what is so great about the Healy is that my whole philosophy is self-care is the new healthcare. And what I'm trying to do with sharing as much as I can about Healy is allowing people to, like I said earlier, take control of their own health back into their own hands and not have to rely on their medical doctors and other physicians to treat them. So back in the 90s, I've always had a very solid spiritual practice. I've worked with a spiritual teacher since the 1970s. And he's always guided me in terms of certain big decisions in my life. When I've gone to him and specifically asked questions about what I should be doing or where I should be going. And he's always guided me, and he's always been absolutely 100% right on. And so one day back in the late 90s, he called me into his office and he said, you know, I have some information to give you. And I said, okay. And he said, the work you're doing currently right now in functional medicine is completely going to change. You're going to move into a whole other area of health care. And he says, I'm going to name what I think it's called quantum energetic medicine. I had no idea what he was talking about at that moment in time. And he said to me, there's going to be a device that comes along that you're going to get involved in and use. And it's really going to not only change the way you practice, it's going to open up a whole other arena, but you're going to be somebody on the forefront of this field. And you're going to be teaching and helping, you know, hundreds and thousands of people out there. And I said, okay, so I'm open. You've never led me wrong. What is this device you're talking about? And he said to me, well, you know, I can't see the name of it, but you'll know it when you see it. And I said, sounds good. So 6 months passed. This was in 1998. And I was on a television talk show one day. We were talking about anti-aging medicine, which is something that I actually moved into after it was sort of a progression for me from functional medicine into anti-aging medicine. And after the show, the host of the show came up to me and she said, you know, you're a really cutting edge guy. I wanted to tell you something. I met this doctor here in Los Angeles, this Korean doctor, and he uses this device that allows you to, you know, find out everything about a person and using frequencies. As soon as she said that, I said to her, I need the name and the number right away. Because immediately, even though it was 6 months ago, I knew that when my teacher said to me, you're going to know when you come across it. And so I went to see this guy and I went to his office and saw these big, you know, computerized devices and what it did. And right away, I knew that this is what he had been talking about. So I called the company up. I asked them if they'd be willing to fly out to the Los Angeles area and to demo this on my patients, because I'm the type of guy that really has always been a researcher at heart. I mean, I was one of those science nerds you hear about that in 11th grade, I won a National Science Foundation scholarship, and they sent me to work at graduate level research at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. And I hadn't even finished high school, and here I was doing research in a laboratory with graduate students. So to me, research was always the most important thing. And so I have to prove, I said to them, that this actually works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 patients that have very unusual health conditions. I'm going to allow you to scan these patients. You can't ask them any questions whatsoever. And at the end of this, you have to tell me exactly what's going on with these patients. And of course, I picked 3 patients that were really not the run of the mill, but people that had very peculiar type of health history. And of course, what happened is they ran the scans and they were right on. And I was like, oh my God, you know, this is amazing. Why do I have to run all these extensive laboratory and blood tests on my patients that cost thousands of dollars if there was an actual way to be able to assess them real time without doing lab tests and getting the same results I was getting with lab work? And so I immediately purchased it. It was a European device, and it came, and I remember the day it came, I called my my spiritual teacher up and I said, remember that you told me 6 months ago that there would be this thing that I would, well, it arrived. And his first response to me was, I want you to bring it over right now. I want to see it. And so I did, and I hooked him up, and he looked at me and said, this is exactly what I saw. You got it. You found it. And so it moved me from the practice of functional and anti-aging medicine into a whole level of, quantum energetic frequency medicine, which I had been practicing for the last 20 plus years in my practice here in LA. And it literally changed everything I did, because it allowed me to look into the body from so many different areas and aspects that I couldn't with a blood test. How do you assess a person's mental, emotional status, or even spiritual status with a blood test? You can't.
Right.
But this tool allowed me, this device allowed me to go in and know everything about the patient on every one of those levels, and it was never wrong. That was the thing that always blew my mind, because I would see patients sometimes that had some of the rarest genetic conditions, and I'd scan them, and the condition would come right up on the screen on my computer. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This person he's like 100 people in the US that has this condition. And yet the name of his condition was right on there on the screen. So to this day, I still utilize that device in my practice as one of my main diagnostics, because it is so good. Well, over the years, I got to thinking, and I said, wouldn't it be great if there was some form of a portable type of device that does something similar to what I do in my office? Because of the fact that my whole, philosophy is that healing is a process. It's not an event. It's not something that just happens in one meeting or one interaction or one intervention, but it's basically something that occurs on a daily basis. A person has to do something with their body and work on their health on a regular or daily basis if they really want to get into a state of balance. So I talked to the people that had, the company that was that from the device I had, which was developed actually by some of the researchers that originally worked on the Apollo space project, and NASA had backed that information and research. And I said to them, this is what I'm looking for. And they said, we're working on it right now. And I said, fantastic, because I think it's really, really needed to be able to really put it out there. And so for about, I guess it was at least 4 or 5 years, every 6 months I would call them up and I said, well, how are you doing on this portable project? And every time I would call and they would say to me, oh, we're working on it. But it didn't seem to ever come to being. And finally, I got frustrated back in 2019. And I said to them, honestly, is this going to happen or not? I just need to know. And he was truthful with me and said, we've tried. It's really, really expensive. We don't have the money to put into it, and it's really complicated. So we're basically dropping the project at this point in time. And I said to him, well, that's great news. And he was kind of like puzzled on the other end of the phone call, I could tell. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, it's great news for me, because in my life, when one door closes, another door almost immediately opens. And so now that I know that's not happening, I can put my focus and energy other places. And so that night, I remember I do a lot of manifestation meditation. I've been doing it for, say, the past 30 years or so. I'm really good at it. And I went into my meditation and I closed my eyes and put out the intention to the universe of exactly what I was looking for in a device. I mean, I described it to a T of exactly the types of scans I was looking for, the types of things that it did. I even said that it was made in Germany. I even said that nobody in the US had it yet. I mean, I put all of these things out, because the one thing about manifestation, if you really want to manifest in your life, the best way to do it is to be as specific as you can be in terms of literally writing down what it is you want, because it's already, in most cases, the things you want are already out there in the universe. And when you actually have that intention and focus on those specifics, it's sort of that quantum entanglement process, and that you then become hooked up with that thing that you're looking for. So I went through all those things, and 7 days later, it was exactly 7 days later, I remember it to a T. I was on the internet one night doing some, just research late night that I do. And all of a sudden a page popped up in German. I don't speak German. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I ran it through Google Translate. And it was this page of this person that was explaining this new device. And it was like, oh my God, could this be exactly what I have been putting out in my meditation over the last week. So I searched him on the internet because there was really no information there about how to make a contact. Saw his name, wrote him a long letter that night describing who I was, what my intention was. And the next day we had a 2.5-hour conversation. This was back in, I guess it was early October of 2019.
And this is Marcus.
No, this wasn't
No.
Marcus. This is CJ.
Okay.
Peters.
Okay.
Peters, and many people know who lives in the Netherlands.
Right.
And he said to me, you know what, Steve? He said, this is amazing that you called, wrote to me, and we have this call because we're getting ready to introduce this device into the United States. And based on your background and your experience and everything you do and who you are, you're like the perfect person to help us bring this forward in the US. And I said, okay, but I have one caveat, which is that I need to try it out first. There's that experimenter part of me that goes into play, because I can tell you, I have a closet full of frequency devices in my office. You couldn't believe it, because so many companies send me stuff and have been sending me stuff for the last 20 years because they know who I am and they know my reputation in the field, and they want me to, back it or to say good stuff about it. And I would have to tell you that 85% of all the things that I get, that I try out, they really, when it comes down to it, they really don't do what they say it's supposed to do. And I'll explain why in a moment. So I said, you got to send me one first, and I have to try it out. And if it actually works, then I'm totally open and willing and ready to support this thing to the max. Because for me, like I said with my patients, I'd like to be able to have something I can give to them that they can continue the work that I'm doing in my office. And he said, great. So I got it. And so I'm my best guinea pig. Whenever I get something new, or I have certain protocol or something shows up, I always like to try it on myself first, because I know my body inside and out, and I'm my best tester. So back in the early 90s here in Los Angeles, I was involved in a near fatal car accident. I literally almost died in a car accident. I was in my sports car. I was hit driver's side by a huge truck coming down the street. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was in a very, very busy street, commercial street, and very close to the nearest hospital, I might not be here right now. But it left me with some injuries that were lasting for over 20 years. I was able to, with my technology and the help of friends, acupuncturists and chiropractors and other people, bring it under a sense of control, but it never, ever actually went away. And then the problem started to get worse over time, in that I was having proprioception issues with my right foot, which meant it was really difficult for me to go from the brake to the gas in my car. It's almost like I lost orientation in my brain of where my foot was. It wasn't that normal process of immediately, without thinking, going from, gas brake. And there were a couple of incidences, four times actually, where once at a stop sign, once at a red light, once into a brick wall, and the fourth one, which was the scariest of all, is that I was in a parking garage and I was on the 3rd level, and I was getting ready to leave, to go down, and my car went right to the edge of, literally to the edge of the garage, down 3 stories up. I couldn't stop my car. I couldn't get my foot to go to the brake. It's just one of those things where I lost that connection. And I was like, after that experience, I was like, no way. I almost died once in a car accident. I don't want it to happen to me twice. And so I wound up basically, taking things like Ubers and Lyfts. And so I figured that, let me set an intention for this to see if it actually works, because everything is about an intention.
Right.
And one of the most important things I tell people that have a Healy is that one of the first and most important things you need to do when you do a Healy session is to really be sure you create a positive intention of what it is you're trying to achieve in the session. And it has to be in the present tense, it has to be positive, and it should never include the name of the condition that you're dealing with, because that only reinforces in your brain that problem. So if you have a headache, for example, you're not going to say, I want the headache to go away, because then all your brain hears is the word headache. But you may say, I want to have my thoughts cleared and my mind, in balance. I said, I want to be able to drive my car again, and not have to experience, the neuropathy and things that were going on in my leg. And so when it arrived, I looked it over, I saw the programs intuitively. I picked up that I would be running the nerve and nerve meridian program because that neuropathy and that proprioception is neurological. I ran it for 4 nights while I was watching TV. And then on the 5th day, a miracle happened. I woke up and I knew immediately that things had changed. Because the first thing that would happen when I woke up in the morning is I felt my foot. And I couldn't, going from my bed with a carpeted floor into the bathroom, which was a tiled floor, and then there was a wooden floor and stuff. If anyone neuropathy is a very common issue that's the result of inflammation from many, many different types of diseases. It's like walking over a bed of nails. It's really that uncomfortable. And so I was on the tile floor, and then I went to the shower, which I usually go in and out of in minutes. And it was like, whoa, this is really cool. I don't have any pain in my feet. This is amazing. And so I said, let's put it to the ultimate test. I called a friend up and said, let's go to brunch. And under one condition, you allow me to drive the car, but you're next to me in the car. So if I have an issue or I feel that I can't hit the brake, you're right there. I'll move the car over and then we can go there. And he said, okay. Went to brunch, drove back, no problems. And I knew that day that the Healy was what I was going to dedicate from then on in terms of my life's work to promote and to bring this device forward to as many people as I could because of the results it gave me. And of course, as we all know, there's thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people that use the Healy, and there's so many testimonials, positive testimonials of using the Healy for almost every condition. And so that's how I got involved in Healy almost 3 years ago. And then I said to myself, so what's the next step for me? And knowing that the Timewaver was the father of the Healy, I said to myself, well, I think that's my next step. So I called up and I went to Germany. Actually, it wasn't me, but a friend of mine was traveling in Germany, and they got a Timewaver brought back to me, and jumped into it. And for me, it was easy because I had been working with professional frequency devices. And so now I'm also a Timewaver practitioner, which allows me to make very custom programs for people with any specific health-related condition. And the thing about the Timewaver is that it's really dependent upon, I have found at least, or the feedback I've gotten from people that have had custom programs made, it's really dependent upon the practitioner in terms of how good the programs are, because I look at myself almost like a frequency alchemist in that I'm able to, create this program for the patient, but I do it a little differently, I think, than a lot of other Timewaver practitioners because of my background of 45 years in medicine. I know the underlying cause of most disease. And so when I create a custom Healy program, I'm really integrating into it what the underlying causes are, because there's a way in the Timewaver to just, send a specific frequency for a specific condition. And that's like, it's like a one size fits all kind of a situation. Whereas I look to the underlying cause and I always incorporate that in all the custom programs that I make. And so far, I've been blessed to have the fact that people have given me some really amazing feedback from the programs that I've made. And then a lady by the name of Taryn Lee Harrington, that most of us know, said to me one day, I was on the USA Roadshow, and she said, do you think you could make a program for me, a goddess program? And I thought for a moment and said, a goddess program. I said, well, I'm open to it. So let me see what I can do. And so I spent some time exploring a lot of the esoteric texts out there to see all sorts of information that wasn't readily, apparent. And I started to pull together all sorts of frequencies that I found to enhance the divine feminine. And finally, I put this together and sent it to Taryn, and she started using it, and it was like, she was amazed. She said, oh my God, it's like, this is incredible. And then just from her word of mouth and some Zooms that I did, people started hearing about it. And it's like spread all over the world. And Cassie, I gave you the goddess program a couple of weeks ago, and you just it was the first time we talked today, you mentioned the fact that some of the things that are happening for you. Tell me.
Yeah, no, it's been incredible, you know, and I'm working with a couple different other frequencies. It feels like, for me, it feels a sense of empowerment. And it also feels like there's a lot of, I don't know if you put Kuan Yin in, or Tara, you know,
Well,
Tara.
a lot of female goddesses that
Okay.
through Venus and Kuan Min and all of their, I was able to find out the frequencies for these people, and that's included in there too. And there's a lot of hormonal balancing frequencies in there, and planetary frequencies like Venus, and empowerment frequencies. And I just sort of did my little magic with my alchemy there and pulled together a program and put an intention out there for it and an affirmation in it. And women have been saying that it's just, every time I get feedback, I'm always sort of blown away, because it's interesting that it's different for each person that uses the program in terms of what they're looking for. Some people have said to me, they feel, like you said, a sense of empowerment. For some people, it's like, I haven't been in a relationship for the past 15 years. And now all of a sudden I'm attracting all these men around me. I don't know why. Well, because I'm enhancing the divine feminine. So I'm allowing their expression of their femininity to come out in a greater way. So that's been a fun program for me to play with. I really, really love being able to do that, because it allows me to do with the Healy what I usually do with my individual patients in my office, is to create custom protocols for them. So it's been great.
And so, just to dovetail on that, Doc, thank you so much for sharing. And, for anyone that's watching, would you be able to share with us, from your perspective, the difference between using or being in the medical model, the Western medical model with the pharmaceuticals, as opposed to using frequencies? And what is the difference? I know that I'd love for you.
Well, I mean, the difference is the paradigm that Western medicine works in, and the paradigm that a lot of natural practitioners work in. And it's so fun. It boggles my mind that in this day and age, with everything we know from Tesla and Einstein, that there are still people that don't get it, that the body, we are energetic beings.
Right.
We come into a physical being because of the fact that our, the atoms and in terms of how they vibrate on a slow rate. But in essence, when you look at your body and your organs and your tissues and your cells and the atoms and the molecules, we're more space than we are solid mass. And we're basically filled with electrons that are spinning, and we are energetic. I mean, physicians should know that to begin with, and they don't even think about it. And that's the thing that always bugs me, because how would you be able to do, for example, an EKG on somebody and get that, the EKG map, if a person wasn't putting out, the heart wasn't putting out an electrical signal, because it's an electrical signal. And the same thing with the brain. When we do an EEG, it's an electrical signal. There'd be no way for them to be able to read anything if our bodies weren't electrical. So they practice in a paradigm of the physical space, which is physical substance, i.e. pharmaceuticals, whereas we practice in the realm of an energetic space. And so just like when I studied homeopathy back in the 70s, which was one of the things that I did when I first got into my practice, the energetic type of protocols are much more effective than pharmaceutical types. So, but it's even more interesting to think, when you go think about it, you realize that, the longest form of medicine on the planet that's still practiced today successfully is acupuncture, right? And we know that that's been practiced for at least 5,000 years, and it's continued to be practiced, and it's changed very little. Well, why would a culture use a type of medicine with all the new and current things that they could be doing to this day, 5,000 years later, if it didn't work? It does work. I mean, that's the thing.
And for those that don't understand what is acupuncture and how acupuncture works, it works with the meridian body.
Right. It's stimulating points in the meridian system to unlock blocks, energetic blocks in the body is on a simple level what it does. And then you have homeopathy, which came around in the 1700s. And homeopathy is basically another form of energy medicine, because It's the frequency or the energy of the substance that you're taking that's really not the substance. Because one of the ways that Western medicine debunks homeopathy is by saying that, well, if you do a test on a homeopathic remedy, there's nothing in it. Well, of course there's nothing in it, because it's been diluted out so many times, but that gives the power of the homeopathic. When you take a homeopathic remedy and it says 10x or 100C or 2, that's the amount of times that that remedy was actually shaken. And when you shake something, you put energy into it. And so the water retains the energy, and really the water is what it's mixed in, is what really transmits the energy, which I'll get into the moment and how that works in the body. And it's an amazing tool that I use every day in my practice, because homeopathic remedies are amazing, because they allow you to take conditions and diseases and literally reverse them. And I work a lot with what's called miasm therapy. And miasm therapy are a group of 6 different miasms, classical miasms, that are the root of all disease. So when a patient comes in to see me, for example, and say they have a really bad case, a child comes in and he has a really bad case of, like, colds and sinus issues and things of that nature, or our child will come in with a lot of rashes and things of that nature. The first thing I say to the parent is, who in your family had this condition? And it'll always say to me, well, my mother, or my father, or my uncle, or had the exact same thing. And I say, well, case in point, because a lot of disease is genetic in origin. We tend to have the diseases that our ancestors carry. It's been shown, because you can see families where the prevalence of heart disease, or the prevalence of cancer, or the prevalence of autoimmune disease, it always seems to be related to what's in that person's ancestry. And things like miasmatic homeopathy allows us to release that frequency from the DNA of the cells of the body and reverse those cases. And I can't begin to tell you how many times I've been able to reverse these really stubborn cases that are based on genetics. And actually, when the person was born, they carried that into their genetics. And the great thing about the Healy is that we have all of these homeopathic frequencies, along with tens of thousands of other frequencies. So it's really great. But the answer to your question about, Western medicine versus what I'll probably term Eastern medicine, is the fact that everything changed in the 1930s. Literally, that was the time, 1930, when medicine was changed, unfortunately, for the worse forever. And what I mean by that is that one of the Rockefellers traveled to, and the Rockefellers were an oil company. They traveled to Germany to Bayer Pharmaceuticals, which was one of the only pharmaceutical companies at that time. And they realized there was a way to use the end products of oil manufacturing to make pharmaceuticals, because that's how pharmaceuticals are made. It's in that process of oil manufacturing. And he thought, oh my God, if I could bring this back to the United States, and I am so rich, and I can go to all the medical schools and tell them, I will fund your research if instead of using homeopathy and all these other types of energetic forms, you stop doing that and start using my patented medications, I'll pay you. And unfortunately, all the medical schools succumbed to that. It was the Flexner report in the 1930s, and to this day, that's the way it happened. So all the homeopathic medical schools in the United States, went out of business, and now we have pharmaceutical medical schools. And so, to prove my point to anyone that ever has a question, especially, I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of teaching on the professional level with traditional docs, and I always say to them, you know what the physician's desk reference is. I mean, most people know what it is in the Merck's manual. Well, basically, the Merck's manual is the manual that all doctors use to tell you how to treat any possible disease. It's literally a book. It has every disease that's out there. It explains what the disease is, and it tells you specifically how to treat it, what medications and how to treat it. Well, back in 1999, Merck, which was in the 1800s a homeopathic company sent out as a gift to all the doctors as a 100th anniversary gift, the original 1899 Merck manual. And interestingly enough, it has every disease like we have today, but instead of telling you which specific pharmaceutical medications to take, it is listed, every homeopathic remedy is in here, and herbal remedy. And so I always say, if this was the physician's guidebook up until the 1930s, and this is what worked for every disease, why would we just throw it out and just reject it, as opposed to saying, wow, this is really cool, why don't we continue to do that? And that's how medicine changed at that point in time. And so we went from a physical paradigm to an energetic paradigm. And we went from an energetic paradigm to a physical paradigm. And thankfully, times have gone back now to change, and where people are really feeling that, pharmaceutical medicine doesn't work. I mean, a great example was over the COVID, the last 3 years. I mean, it's amazing how Healy comes out right at the time of COVID. And I don't think there were any accidents whatsoever that happened.
Absolutely
I think it was divinely meant to be, because there was nothing out there to treat COVID. And yet Healy had programs to be able to reverse the condition. And that proved to everyone out there that was even a doubter that this type of treatment and protocols actually work energetically. So that's really the story about how this has happened. And again, I just guessed that I was just always a step ahead of everyone. And I knew back in the 70s that I was going to do things like homeopathy, because I really felt that that's the way it should be. And here we are.
And here we are.
World.
So if someone were brand new to frequencies and they're hearing this talk, and they're on the precipice of really wanting to move from they've been in the Western medical model, which I know many have been for a very long time, and they are running up against just roadblock after roadblock, so to speak. And they're hearing the word frequency, and they're going, okay, meridians, Eastern philosophy, spirituality, maybe I need to eat a little better, okay, or maybe I need to change some environments or what. But can you tell us just basic 101, what is frequency medicine? What is energy medicine? What is it doing to the body? What is it? How is it building our cells?
Right. Well, I mean, it's basically, when you talk about frequency, the way I like to do it is to tell people that when it comes down to it, everything is frequency. Light is frequency. Sound is frequency. You go to your car in a parking lot and you click your car transducer, and only your car opens up. Why does your car only open up rather than all the cars in the parking lot? Because that little device is set to the specific frequency of your car, and so that's why it opens up. When you drive a car and you listen to the radio and you don't like a specific station or the music that's playing, you go from 101.7 to 102.3, and you have different music because you're going to a different frequency. So, basically, frequency is just a word that is determined by, a certain amount of cycles over a certain period of time, because that's what frequencies are. They're cyclical over time. 1 cycle per second, 2 per second. And it's a mathematical, specific situation. And, it's always been said that, Tesla's famous quote, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think of frequency, energy, and vibration.
Right.
And because everything comes down to mathematics on the planet. And I think it's been known, and most people that study a lot of the esoteric sciences realize that everything is based in math. When you think about it. And so it's no surprise that the body would be working with those kinds of things like the golden ratio and the solfeggio frequencies. These are things that exist in nature.
Right.
We just have to look at nature to see that everything has a cycle, and that's all about frequencies. They're cycles per second. So that's how I try to allow people to understand what frequencies are. They're not some mystical, magical things, but it's what happens every day when the sun rises and sets and the moon cycles and the seasons. It cycles. And everything is in accordance with that. So what we're doing is we're trying to get our body back into that sense of balance with all of those cycles. And as a matter of fact, Nuno Nina has his new programs now where he specifically creates programs to align you with the specific cycles by putting in your longitude and latitude and, you know, date and start you on a process to align the body that way. So it's getting into the natural rhythm of nature is really what frequency and energy medicine really is. Going back to the roots of our beginnings.
And so just to show everyone, I'm wearing my microcurrent, and
Right.
Doc is wearing his Healy coil.
Right.
Can you share with us a little bit about, so from what I
I also
understand,
have
oh
here,
yeah, we have Mac
I
Healy.
also have my Mag Healy, which I've been beta testing for the company. I'm the U.S. representative for the product development team for Healy, and so I'm lucky I get to try out all the new gadgets and stuff and the new programs to be able to report back and, you know, talk about some of the things that that I need, you know, I think should be changed or altered, or things that are, you know, made better. And so the thing about the devices is that they're different, and there's not one better than the other, and there's not one, you know, substitution for the other. They all have different functions, and they all have different aspects, and they all work what I say synergistically. It's just a matter of when you use them, what you're using them for. And I like to boil it down to really 3 simple ways of explaining. So the thing about the Healy is that it basically uses more of what we call an electromagnetic type of a process. And that's the key, I think, that really assisted me, because I was using frequency therapy, but I wasn't using microcurrent. I hadn't been introduced to microcurrent until I actually got a Healy.
Interesting.
And to me, that's the powerful thing that makes the frequencies really work better, because of the fact that it's almost like the microcurrent is like the car, and the frequencies are like the driver. And so the microcurrent comes in, and the frequency is directed to the place in the body it wants to go. So it's basically an electrical type of a signal. Then comes along the Healy coil, which works on a whole different level, which is what I call scalar wave technology. And scalar wave technology is technology that's based on Tesla. There are basically, if you look at a Healy coil, it's basically 2 Tesla coils that are set apart by about 180 degrees in opposite directions, which creates what's called a 0-point field. And that field is very, very powerful and very, very directed, and can be used without any specific connection. Whereas the microcurrent, obviously, we're running current through the body to change what we call the cell membrane potential of each individual cell, because every one of our cells are like little batteries, and they run current through them. And, you know, people don't realize, you know, there's a simple answer to life and health that is so easy when you're somebody that uses Healy, but so obtuse for somebody that's never heard of Healy. Because think about it, our cells are healthiest when they are at the -70 millivolt level. And those are healthy, functioning, robust cells. And as we go through life and we're exposed to things like toxins and stress and all of those things in our environment that start to create a lot of inflammation. And I'm always really the person that says that inflammation is the cause of all disease. That membrane potential starts to drop. Right. And as that membrane potential starts to drop, our actual cellular energy starts to drop. And I like to, for lay people, compare it to a flashlight. Say everybody has a flashlight. Well, you know what happens if you have a flashlight over time, the light starts to dim until a point when you've used it so many times that the flashlight doesn't work anymore. And what do? You unscrew it and you put in new batteries to basically recharge that light, and then it's bright again. Well, it's exactly the same thing that happens in the body. Over time, our batteries start to run out. And if we don't do anything about it to recharge those cells on a daily basis, we get into that place where we get fatigue, we get inflammation, and then as it drops lower, we get tumors, we get cancer, and then as it drops lower, we get to zero, and what happens? Our lights go out. In other words, we're no longer, alive. And that can be seen when you see the flat line on an EKG. So the key is that in order to really, live a long, healthy life, it's so easy to just recharge your cells on a daily basis. And how do we do that? We just run a microcurrent program. So I've always said to people, there's no replacement for the Healy bracelets and the microcurrent. The coil does not replace the microcurrent on programs. The coil is used for different situations. I always like to tell people that if you're dealing with a strictly physical type of an issue, always use microcurrent. If you're working more in the realm of emotional, mental, spiritual, you can easily use the scalar. And then we have this third device that's coming along now, which is the Mag Healy. And as it sounds, MAG, the basic principle of the Mag Healy is magnetic. So with the Mag Healy, we have what's called pulse magnetic waves that run through the Mag Healy that are different, and they are also extremely, extremely powerful. I would have to say, based on using the devices in 3 different ways, that I have found personally that the Mag Healy is a much stronger effect that you can feel almost instantaneously, more so, for example, than just running, say, with the coil. And also what's important to note is the Mag Healy doesn't have only one quantum sensor like the Healy has, but it has 2 quantum sensors. So we're able to run, actual frequency-specific microcurrent according to Dr. Carolyn Mencken, because we're running dual frequencies at the same time.
Right.
One of those channels is for the condition, and the other channel is for the organ. And on the Mag Healy's app, you can actually see those 2 frequencies going, one right after the other. So for example, 40 would be for inflammation, and then we'd have another number for the specific organ, and you can see it running those 2 channels, and that's affecting the body in its own unique way, very, very powerfully. And the other thing is that, in terms of the frequencies themselves, the Healy goes from 0.1 to 1.0 megahertz in terms of its level of what it can put out. But the Mag Healy goes from 0.1 to 12.5 megahertz. And that difference is profound because at the 10.0 megahertz level is where frequencies really, really affect the body's water system. And I always say to people, when you're really treating the body with frequencies, what you're really doing is you're treating the water in the body with frequencies, because the water in your body is actually what's carrying those frequencies to the organs and everything else in your system. When you think about it, the body is actually, 95% water. And when we send those frequencies in the body, the water molecules, the hydrogen and oxygen, are really what carry those frequencies around through the system. Because if you've ever heard of, have you heard of Gerald Pollack's book, The Fourth Phase of Water?
Yeah.
So there's actually, it's not just, ice and drinking water and steam, but there's also a fourth phase of water, which is sort of like a crystalline matrix type of a effect, which is a great way of describing it, because it really lines a lot of our cartilage and a lot of the other areas inside our body that allows us to transmit the frequencies almost instantaneously. Because otherwise, if you thought about it, it would take time for the frequencies to move to certain areas, but it's a simultaneous process when it works in that way. So water is really the secret. So the first secret I say to patients when they want to get the best Healy session is to, one, create a really great positive intention. And the second one that's really important for any of the Healy programs or sessions is to make sure your hydration is really good. Because if you have low hydration, not only does the circle turn black instead of white, but you're not really transmitting those frequencies into your body. So I always tell people to drink an adequate amount of water, but it's not just water alone. Right. A lot of times people can drink water and then they excrete water. In order to really retain water, you need electrolytes. And when you think about batteries, all batteries have some form of an electrolyte. So therefore, what I say to people that use Healy is that it's a really great idea if you want to, just to sprinkle a little bit of the Himalayan sea salt,
Yeah.
for example, in your liter of water. You won't taste it, but that little amount will conduct an electrical flow. Again, it has a lot to do with that. And what's great about the Mag Healy is that we now have programs that follow Carolyn's, frequency specific microcurrent approach, which is very, very powerful. But we also have a couple of other programs. One of the ones that I've been using now and playing around with is the water imprinting programs. So what I do is I take my water container. I've already finished it for the day. I have my water and I put my Mag Healy on top of it, and I dial up whichever frequency that I want on the program for what I'm looking for, and I drink that, and it goes. Again, it's another way of getting the frequencies directly into the water of your body, which is nice. And then we also have what's called the atmosphere programs, and those allow us to put the Healy in a room and not just affect ourselves, but affect anybody else in the room. And we have some really cool programs there for every possible condition you can think.
A veterinary hospital could run a Mag Healy. A corporate office could have a Mag Healy. A yoga studio could have their own Mag Healy.
Yes, I mean,
massage room.
Even in your own home, there's programs for when the family comes to dinner at night when they gather around.
The holidays.
Somebody like me that tends to have a creative bent. I'm also a glass artist, so when I'm doing down in my studio in my house and my kilns and stuff, doing my glass work, I put the creativity cycle on to get me to be even more creative. So I think, this is really going to be exciting for people. And, it doesn't replace the Healy. It's not the Healy. The Healy is a whole different animal than the Mag Healy and the coil, and they all have, want people to know it's a synergistic approach, and they all have their place in the process. And what's really cool that I have found is if you run them simultaneously. So, for example, I can run the coherence program with my coil, but at the same time, I can put it in my room and run the Mag Healy coherence program. And then I get that synergy between those two, and it's even more and more empowering and strengthening, which is really, really exciting. So I'm really glad, because when we think about it now, we have the market covered. There's nothing out there, no other devices that anybody can show me that does what the Healy does, because we have the electromagnetic, we have the scalar, and then we have the pulse magnetic. So we have really covered the bases in terms of every form of energetic frequency delivery system that we have, Healy has now. So,
and speaking of your affinity for research, we also have the research.
Yes, we also have the research, and Marcus has been publishing a lot of papers recently that have been getting accepted into a lot of different journals about his work. And that's always, Marcus came to the US, many people know, a month ago. And he actually called me on the phone and said, I'm wondering, I'd like to try something. And you're the guy that probably can put this together for me. I'm going to be coming for the second anniversary conference in Orlando. But before that, I'm going to take a trip to San Francisco, because I've never been to San Francisco before. And I've had an invitation to come meet some of the leading researchers in the field at places like Stanford University and the Heart Math Institute and things of that nature. And so you're in LA. Could you put together a group of about 25 doctors or other health practitioners that use Healy? And I'd like to do a full day immersive program with them. And I said, oh, absolutely, not even a question. And I did that. And he shared with us a lot of the various types of research that he's currently doing and is publishing out there. And so that's always great for us, scientifically. So that's been my journey to this point in time, until something that I am unveiling today to the whole community, which to me is really exciting, because I want to always look about taking Healy to the next level. Mm-hmm. And I've been working with somebody for the last year who is a master in the field of holophotonics and holoceuticals. And what he does is he creates these programs that are able to capture light and sound of frequencies, and they come into what's called fractal patterns. And basically, you know, fractals are really the mathematical expression of everything. And holograms, we know about that each piece of a hologram contains the whole. And so we've worked together for the last year to come up with what we've called the Healy Holoceuticals, which we're actually unveiling today for the very first time to the public. We've worked on it for a year, we've checked it out, we've tested it. And so you actually have the scoop, the exclusive on this, Cassie, because nobody else has heard this before. So one of the things I want to do before we complete today is to really share this new process that we're doing. Because, you know, we're all looking to kind of create and enhance the Healy experience. And I'm always, you know, working in that, what we call that 5-dimensional or 5D phase of things. And so I wanted to bring the Healy up into that, incorporate these other aspects. I wanted to incorporate light, and I wanted to incorporate sound and all the other aspects of frequencies to get more of an immersive experience. And so I want to show you here, if you wouldn't mind,
Yeah,
you know, sharing the
absolutely.
screen
Yep.
with me, or allowing me to share the screen.
I will make you host.
Show you some of the stuff we've come up with, and I think you'll find that it's really, really cool.
There you are.
So, did you have my screen yet or no?
I do. I shared screen. Yep, your host.
So you have me here. Do you see my? Let's see. I may have done this too premature here. I didn't really share the screen yet, so I have to. How do I get back to? Let's see.
Should be in the bottom, the green.
See, I'm down to a tiny little thing now. So
there you are.
Let's get back to where I was. Hopefully.
And ladies and gentlemen, we will put the link to the holoceuticals in the thread so that you can view what it is that they are launching, which is an accompaniment, obviously, to Healy.
Okay.
And so fascinating.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. And of course, anyone that is also interested in any type of custom Timewaver program, I'd be more than happy to work with you on that. So let's hit the share screen first. That's what I didn't do. And let me get to.
And I'll put all of this in the chat. And there will also be a link as well for the recording that I will.
Can you see this? Can you see this?
Share. Not yet.
Okay, so I shared the screen, so you should be able to see my screen right now.
Not yet.
Can't see it?
Not yet.
That's too bad. I'm not sure why.
Let's see. You are host and we did this right before we started.
Yeah. All right, I'm trying to get back to the beginning here. So, all right, so I'm sharing my screen, right? And
it should go full screen. There we go.
Okay.
Excellent.
Let's see if I can get to this here. Do you see it now?
I can see it now.
Okay, great. So this is the site. And so we have here, as you can see, we have all the different Healy programs, like the gold cycle, the deep cycle, the chakras, things of that nature. And what we have created is a specific program for each one. So for example, let's just say I wanted to run the third eye or the throat chakra. Looks interesting here. What I would do is I would click this and this. And so what we've done, or I should say what Keith has done, is he's layered all the frequencies of the actual programs of every one of the Healy programs that he's been able to run through his devices, and has come up with both a specific sound, a music, and a specific visual that incorporates the frequencies of each one of the individual Healy programs. So let me take that off for a second, and let me see if I can go
And
to
of course,
something
to
different.
have this added visual and to have this added sound as an accompaniment is only going to enhance the frequency experience, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. Because now, like I said, it's more of what I call like a 5D experience, because now you're getting the visual, you're getting the sound. But what Keith also likes to do is he likes to connect what's called a pico projector, which is a tiny little projector that hooks up through Bluetooth to your phone or your computer. And then he projects these images directly onto a person's body. So in sessions, when he does a Healy session with somebody, he has them, if they're comfortable, take off their shirt, and he actually projects these holograms onto their body so that their skin actually absorbs the photons of the frequencies. But you can get the same thing just by looking at it. You can get it, if you want to, by projecting it on a wall, or even using it on a computer screen. I'm going to run one now for the balance program, so you can see that it's completely different.
And so he's taken the frequencies from
Yes, he's taken the actual frequencies from the Healy program themselves, and has been able, he has all sorts of equipment that he uses to layer in the fractal layers, to layer the music. So the music actually has the frequencies of that particular program running in the background. And along with the images that occur are the images that are based on those particular frequencies with every one of those programs. So it's kind of, you know, like I said, we're really trying to give people more of an immersive experience when they do their Healy, and use the frequencies of light and color and the frequencies of sound, as well as all the frequencies we get from either the microcurrent, the scalar frequencies, or the magnetic. And of course, it can be used simultaneously, in conjunction. It's all synchronistic. And we just wanted to take that next quantum leap, you know, to do this. And I was able to show this to Marcus when I was with him in San Francisco, and he really enjoyed it and thought this was really, really cool. So here we are. We're releasing it today, you know, for the first time. And we're hoping that people, you know, will be able to use it any way they choose to. Like I said, personally, by, you know, it's almost like a mandala. And you know how mandalas create, the whole purpose of mandalas that were made, you know, thousands of years ago, was to really focus the brain into a certain, you know, a frequency pattern. But now with computerization, we've been able to take it to like the ultimate degree. And I'll tell you something, what happened today, which was really no accident. I get a thing on my phone today that there's this Amazon has twice a year these real amazing specials that come up twice a year. And what pops up on my screen, I mean, sometimes it's amazing. I wonder how this happens, you know, but I shouldn't wonder, because everything in the universe is connected, and everything, you know, is entangled. And what comes up on my screen today is, we buy this tablet, and what they show is a 3D tablet, literally, which allows anything that you put on that tablet to automatically come into 3D. So that means a TV show or anything you put on your tablet. And I said to myself, oh my God, I'm releasing this today. And one of the things I said to Keith 2 days ago was, Keith, we got to do this in virtual reality somehow. We got to take the next step into virtual reality so people can actually put glasses on and actually be in these things at the same time they're running the sessions. And lo and behold, what comes up today is these 3D tablets for $199. I could not believe it. And
Oh,
immediately I ordered one, because imagine seeing these things in 3D
of course,
while you're doing them, right? It's the
of
next
course.
level up. And I just put it out. See, I'm telling you, you have to realize that if you are somebody that does a lot of intention and a lot of affirmation and a lot of manifestation, like I do on a daily basis in my life, I shouldn't be surprised that these things show up, because they're really an extension of just who I am and what I do. And one of the things I've always said to people is, I've always been somebody that's been very tuned in and very psychic in a way and that kind of thing. But since I've used the Healy for the last 3 years or 2.5 years, and I've done sessions every day, what I have found personally is my perception of being able to predict the future and know what's going to happen has skyrocketed. I can't begin to tell you how many times that I've been able to predict so many things before they've happened. And I've told people about stuff, and even in my life, and it just shows up. It's like I'm connected to something, because time is relative. It's like I'm seeing into the future. And I talked to Marcus about that when we had lunch. I said, Marcus, really interesting thing is happening to me. I've always been tuned in, perceptive. I've worked in the quantum field for the last 25 years. But ever since I've had the Healy and I use it every day, I find that my powers have multiplied like 100-fold. And he smiled and laughed and he said, of course, Steve, you tap into the information field every single day when you use the Healy. And so that connection that you make gets stronger and stronger and stronger on a daily basis. And since who you are is somebody that's always been kind of tuned in, you've now expanded your ability to tap into that field. And that's why I literally, things come at me on a daily basis. Like all of a sudden the 3D tablet, for $199, when I was just saying to Keith 2 days ago, we need to make this thing go virtual reality. So what can I say? My life is blessed, and so many great things have come into my life since I've gotten involved with Healy on so many levels. And it's exciting because I really think, Cassie, that we're just seeing the, like Marcus says, he even said at the meeting he had with the doctors, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. I have so many things that I'm planning on doing and releasing down the line in terms of different programs, in terms of different devices. He talked a little about, I hope it's okay to share it, Marcus, if you're listening, but he talked to the doctors about that one of his projects that he's working on currently right now is a little device that allows you to see how much incoherence you are, that you actually are in your body at any moment in time. That's the next thing he's working on. And so he continues to do his research, and I continue to contribute in my way to the product development team and my work, with Timewaver, with Healy, with bringing forward, new things for people to try and experience. And it's really exciting. My life is really blessed.
And so for those of you that are listening, he's introducing this today, the Holoceuticals today. We're going to put this in the link below. We're having Mag Healy available to us.
Probably, I would say I'm on the board, the Healy board of directors. So we've had to talk about that. So we think that it'll probably be available in the United States sometime, not sure the exact dates, but like maybe mid-August.
Okay.
The problem, as we all know, was the chip. There's a very special chip that's inside the Mag Healy that, interestingly enough, is the same chip that's in a very popular automobile console. And so the lack of chips out there because of COVID made it a little difficult for Healy to get this, up and running. But they are in production, I know for a fact, and they will be available in the U.S. Sometime, I would say mid to late August at the latest.
And then if someone's just kind of watching and they're thinking, okay, I don't really have a meditation practice, or I don't really have an affirmation practice. 2 questions. What would you recommend someone download? Just a list of affirmations for them to say in the morning, maybe at night before they go to bed?
There are many. There are many places online. If you just look for, affirmations, you can see many different books have been written with affirmations. I also like to tell people, when you're going to do affirmations, and if you do have a Healy, some of the programs that would be appropriate to run would be the coherence program, obviously, and also some of the chakra programs like the third eye and crown chakra tend to facilitate going deeper in meditation. And before I get off here, I want to talk about two of my favorite Healy programs, because people always say to me, what are your favorite Healy programs?
That was going to be my next question, by the way.
Yeah,
well, of course. I mean, there's so many questions that people have written in, and I keep thinking I'll think them, and then you will answer them, like the water and the salt, and so yeah.
You see, that's an example of me already.
I just have to think about it, and then you
already being ahead of you and seeing that, because, like I said, I have that ability to kind of go, fast forward. I'm living a little bit in the future, I feel, in my life, kind of a little ahead of everybody. But there are two programs especially that I really are my favorites in Healy that I always love to share, because sometimes I find that when I share this, people are surprised, number one, and number two, they don't even realize why I find that it's important. So the first thing that's obvious is the fact that, we're all under stress, all of us on this planet, and the last 3 to 4 years have probably been the most stressful that us as a collective human beings have been under since the beginning of time, I would say, because we've all been going through everything that's associated with COVID and on every realm of health and money and family and relationships and all of that sort of stuff. And, I have a way of even testing patients when they first come into my office with my device in terms of what are their actual levels of stress. And I'll tell you, having done this for 25 years, it's like so off the charts right now. I used to have maybe 15 to 20% of my patients would come in and they'd be recording high levels of stress. But now 85% of all my patients that come into the office are recording very high levels of not only physical stress, but mental, emotional stress. And so the reason for that is that we're all basically in what I call sympathetic, meaning the sympathetic nervous system, which is the classic fight or flight nervous system. It's the primary nervous system. Everyone is living in fight or flight. And that stress, leads to inflammation, and that inflammation leads to all disease. So I can see it as a timeline. Okay, stress, inflammation, chronic disease. And so how do we get out of sympathetic? Well, we need to get into parasympathetic.
That's right.
Okay, so there is a way to actually reverse the sympathetic, and it happens real quickly. And that is by working to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is one of the largest nerves that goes through the entire body, and it deals with the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the opposite of fight and flight. That's the, calm, relaxing, balanced state that the body goes into. And so we have a program in the Healy called Bed Rest. It's with the sleep programs. And that program is specifically designed to stimulate the vagus nerve. That's right. And so that is one of the CES or cranial electrical stimulation programs that are best used with either ear clips, if you have ear clips, or if you don't, you can achieve the same result by using the sticky pads and putting them on the mastoid bone, which is the bone right behind the ear, that bone when you press behind the ear, it's the mastoid bone. You put the sticky pads or the ear clips and you run that bed rest program, it immediately switches you off from sympathetic fight and flight to parasympathetic, which is the relaxation and recovery phase. It happens real fast. And it's something that I really believe is a program that people should run at least once a day. It's not a long program. It could be done, at bedtime before you're getting ready to go to sleep. It's a nice one to calm you down before you want to go to bed. And it's something that we have access to. And I think it's like I said, it's one of my favorite programs. I was so excited to find that the Mag Healy has a bunch of vagus balancing programs, vagus nerve balancing programs, both directly and also the atmosphere. So you can put it in a room. And say you have a bunch of 3 and 4 year olds that are running around like they do, putting the vagus nerve program on would probably calm them down greatly. So that's one of my favorite programs. And then the other favorite program that I personally have is the Bioenergetic Vitalization program, which is one that's in the professional. And the reason why I like that program is, to me, that is the ultimate anti-aging program. Okay, because think about it. We have 2 ways of creating anti-aging that no other devices do. Number one, we have that ability that I explained earlier of raising the cell membrane potential to negative 70 millivolts when we do a microcurrent program, which is going to continually establish healthy, new, young cells in our body. And I don't know if most people are aware of this, but every 7 years, all the cells in our body completely turn over. So we actually create a new body every 7 years. So a literally new body, new cells, new organs, new everything. Some of them turn over faster than others, but in 7 years' time, you will not see all the cells we see now, they won't be there. So we have an ability, using the microcurrent to raise that microvoltage up on a daily basis, giving us that youthful cellular ability. And then we have the bioenergetic vitalization programs, which are the frequencies of the stem cells.
Right.
And the stem cells are the primordial cells in the body, which when we're born originally, they go out and form all the different organs in our body. And I'm sure, stem cells these days, in the last 5 years, it's been very, very popular, especially on the West Coast here. But I'm sure you've heard for many, many years, so many people flying to Switzerland or down to Mexico and spending tens of thousands of dollars getting these stem cell injections, only to have to return 6 months later, to get more injections and spending all that money, when we have in our Healy the ability to turn on the frequencies of all the stem cells of our body. So think about it, combining the microcurrent with the stem cells, the perfect anti-aging program that we have. And I do it all the time. I have that program. I just turned 70 in March. I think I look pretty good for a 70-year-old. And I will continue to use that program on a daily basis because, I want to live as long a healthy life as I possibly can. So those are my two favorites. But any other questions? We have some additional time. I'm willing to stay as long as you want to have me
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
So what else is out there?
Well, I wanted to ask just some different amazing programs for Mag Healy.
Uh-huh.
Just certain different, maybe are the stem cells also in Mag Healy? And
well, it's different with
okay.
the Mag Healy. Let me bring it up because I
Okay.
haven't committed it to memory yet because there's so many new programs.
Right.
And I will tell you here as it turns on. They changed today. We got an upgrade for the first time in 2 months on the Mag Healy. I turned it on right before to make sure I had it, and I was like, oh my god, the whole program changed. I mean, it was rudimentary, because a bunch of us have this that we're doing it. Now it got really pretty. So it's really nice here. All right, so let me get back to where I am. So we have the classic programs, which are the classic magnetic programs here. We do have one called Regeneration, which contains the stem cells. So that's the one there. That's a good one. The other program that has been the most, for me, fascinating because it happened so fast, I couldn't believe it. And my favorite Mag Healy program, the others were, I was talking about the Healy, my favorite Mag Healy program has to be hands down the sleep program. Because I run the Mag Healy near my bed in my bedroom when I go to bed at night, and I set it and it runs for like 5 hours or more. I got to tell you something. I have never had the level of sleep that I am having now running the Mag Healy every night. But what's really interesting is, there are many times because I have to speak to Germany and we're like 9 hours difference. So, either I'm like up until 2, 3 in the morning, or I'm waking up really early, and instead of getting my usual 8 hours sleep, I'm getting only like maybe 5 hours sleep, which doesn't really work for me. I find that when I run the sleep program, even if I have only 5 hours of physical sleep, when I wake up in the morning, it feels like I had 8 hours of sleep. It actually gives me that same feeling. Whereas if I hadn't run this and I were to do 5 hours, I'd be like the next day, nah, forget it. I couldn't really function up to my, abilities. So that's actually my favorite Mag Healy program, is the one that I run at night. Then we also have, let's see here. We have programs like Positive Mood, the classic programs, Balanced Body. We have the Atmosphere programs, which I told about, that you put in a room. So we have one for studying. So when your kids are studying at night, when they're doing their homework, the creativity one I use when I'm in my studio doing my glass work. We have one if you're in your office. We even have one that I think people are going to love called Prosperity. Who doesn't love prosperity? We have a prosperity frequency. We can run all day long around us. A program for the car. So a lot of people don't realize, electrical cars right now, like the Tesla and other electric cars have become really, really popular here, at least in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't realize when you drive an electrical car, there's a grid that's established in the car that you're in the center of. And you're getting, not necessarily a great field that you're sitting in. And by running this in the car program, you're able to counteract, that situation. We have a workout program to enhance your muscles when you're working out in the gym. Family Harmony, which is a great program to put at the family dinner table when everyone's sitting around. A children playing program, enhance one when you eat. We have one, let's see here. Let's go to the next level here. Atmosphere 2. We have coherence, which goes nicely with wearing the coherence program. We have the sleep, as I talked about, holistic health. We have one for putting in a room and dispelling any of the electromagnetic sensitivity, in other words, EMFs. So you can put this in a room, dispel the EMFs. We even have one called energy clearing. So you can actually clear, you know how you have some people have to come in, they hire somebody to come in to do an energy clearing on their house. You can actually do it with the Mag Healy.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see here. Dead for a sec. Back on the charging stand. The thing about the Mag Healy that's great is that you can use it while it's sitting on the charging stand. So I tend to use it, especially when I'm doing the atmosphere programs. I have it sitting right on its own, charging stand, so the battery doesn't go down, because I use it a lot. So I talked about sleep. We have the energy clearing. We have a chakra balancing program that balances the chakra. That would be a good one to do for meditation. Relationship one for dealing with relationships. We have one for animals, which is so cool. My dream is to get some of these, and I work with a lot of the rescues here in LA. I do have a rescue dog who I adore. And when I've worked in rescues, when these dogs come in, they're so scared and frightened, and they're all barking and whatever. And I used to tell the person that was running it, run some, use certain types of music to kind of calm the dogs down. Now we actually have a program we can put in rescues, or even in your own home with a group of animals. And then we even have one for plants. So this can be used in your garden to enhance that. And those are the atmosphere programs. Then we move into the water activation programs. And as I've shown you, all you need to do is take the Healy and place it on a glass container, and you run it. It's only a 10-minute program, and you can charge up water for the day, and those frequencies will, be enhanced, because we can do that with the regular Healy by putting the Healy adjacent to it. But somehow, when I've talked to Marcus, he says that the pulse magnetic actually even enhances the water more than just the regular Healy. And so let's see here, we have offline here for a sec.
Victoria says something is always running at our house on the resonance and the microcurrent on my husband and I. Victoria Rochester.
Yeah, the great thing is that this can run in the background now. So the neat thing about the Mag Healy is you can just set it up. It runs for 5-6 hours at a time, and just turn the switch and just do your life while you have it actually in there in the background. And so the water activation has things like cell harmony, skin. It has it has great programs. If any of you do any kind of fasting or intermittent fasting, it has 3 specific programs for that. It's the morning fasting, the noon fasting, and the evening fasting. So you actually charge your water up and you drink it during those periods of time while you're doing fasting, because you know how it is sometimes when you're doing a fasting program, it's difficult. Imagine being able to get the balancing frequencies while you're doing a fast. How cool is that, right?
Oh, sure. Oh, all the dietitians, all the integrative medicine doctors, functional medicine doctors are going to love this.
Absolutely. We have, water coherence, mental clarity. We have before and after stress. We have one for bioenergetic defense, which is a similar one that we have in the Healy that was created for things like COVID, for stimulating our immune system. And we do have another one for plants. So instead of just watering your plants with just regular water, how about putting this on the container that you're watering your plants, and water it with frequencies that will enhance the plants.
Think about all the very expensive water, reverse osmosis, or
Exactly. Right.
all the
Yep.
different alkaline water devices that are out there. Amazing.
Right. And hydrogen water devices, which is the newest thing actually right now. And then we have the specific McMakin programs, which are for all of the various organs and conditions, like the joints, like the lower back, like tendons, neck, soft tissue, skin.
And these are all directly from Carolyn.
These are directly from
That's
Carolyn.
right.
Yes, I've talked to Carolyn because I've asked her to add some things and change some things around. A detox, kidney, digestion, sinuses. And so, I mean, it's like there's so much in here in terms of what's available on the Healy, that it really takes the Healy to another level. And it's just always something new, always something exciting. And now I'm adding this halluceuticals on top of everything else, and it just keeps, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's been a lot of fun for me. And I have to honestly say,
it's incredible. And one of the questions is, 3 microcurrents a day, and then essentially is what we recommend. And then, up
to three a day, I would say, of just using microcurrent. But you can use the Scalar unlimited, and of course you can use the Healy unlimited. So that's right. You have so many ways of getting your frequencies in every day.
And one of the questions is also, some opinions have been shared that once you set the wave and process, do you want to wait? Is there a wait time in between programs? Like, let's say you use the scalar waves, let's say you use the coil, and it sets a frequency in the body.
Right.
Can you switch then to another frequency and run? How would you recommend that?
Well, I mean, think about it. Each one of the actual programs that we have in the Healy or the Healy are actually combinations of at least 500 different frequencies. And what happens is, because of the German cloud, whenever you use either the Healy or the Healy, it's only going to deliver to you the specific frequencies that your body needs at that moment in time. So you'll never get any harmful frequencies or frequencies that your body doesn't need. I mean, it's always the case. For example, the best case I can tell you is that when I make my custom Healy programs with the Timewaver, I might create a program that's 60 minutes long based upon the length of time that it can run. But invariably, people will write me and say, I ran your program, it says 60 minutes, but it only worked for 40 minutes. Is there a problem? I said, no, not at all. Your body needed only those frequencies for 40 minutes, and it was all filled up. I mean, your body can, and then at that point in time, it doesn't receive anymore. So the good news is that there's sort of a self-protective mechanism that's built into all the Healy products that don't allow you to necessarily either overstimulate or give yourself the wrong frequencies, because it's attuned to your body, unlike all the other devices out there. And what I say is the difference between the Healy and all other frequency devices is that all other frequency devices I like to call static frequency devices, because if you know of any of them, like Rife devices or PMF devices, basically you're setting a specific frequency from a book that tells you, what to do for treating a certain disease or illness or condition. And it's the same frequency you use every single day. And it's the same frequency that everybody uses. But we are all different. We're all unique. The biochemical individuality I talked about at the beginning. And so running that same frequency for everybody or every day, to me, only gets you so far. But the Healy is what I call a dynamic frequency device, in that you never get the same session. And if I were to have 10 people in a room and they all had, let's go back to the headache, and we ran the headache program, and I walked around and looked at their Healys and looked at their apps, they'd all be running, even though they're all treating the headache and they're running the headache program, each one of them would have different frequencies showing up for what they needed at that moment in time. And then on the second day, if they had a headache, again, the frequencies would be different. So the beauty of the Healy is that it does have that ability to treat people as an individual, where no other devices that I am aware of really have that level of individuality, because there's no such thing as cookbook medicine. You can't treat, it's even my practice, I've always said that to patients. Every patient that comes in is unique. I never have two patients alike. And if I had 10 patients that had diabetes, they'd all walk out of my office with absolutely completely different protocols based upon what was happening specifically to their body. So the Healy works the same way. It treats on that individual level.
And so this question is from Chantel, just a general question in which cell phones can program the work. I'm not able to work my Healy in my cell. Oh, I guess she's asking for, is there a different, it's from an app, from the phone, from the cell phone, from a smartphone. But is Mag Healy the same?
Mag Healy is the same. Mag Healy has its own app set. It's called the Mag Healy app, and it's divided into 4 sections. So you get to choose one of those 4 sections, and then it has the individual programs, kind of a similar layout that the Healy has.
And last but not least, reflection is integral. This is something from Marcus's talk. Reflection is integral to consciousness. Meditation brings us to reflection. For a time, we do not focus on external circumstances so as to delve deeper into the layers of our being. And Healy is helping us to connect to the greater consciousness, if you will. It's allowing for us to bring that consciousness into our body, which is kind of the cell charge that he's talking about earlier in terms of our batteries, etc. It builds the ATP production in our cells, which is essentially the charge. And so, adding the meditation, adding something like holoceuticals to your Healy practice and or your Mag Healy practice is something that seems, consciousness plus matter equals life.
Yeah, charging the water that you drink with the specific
Charging the water that you drink.
Mag Healy. I mean, all of those things, combined, they all work, as I said earlier, synergistically to balance the body on all different levels. And that's why we're unique, because the rest of the world deals only with the physical body primarily. And we work with everything, the mind, body, spirit, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual. And that's, it's treating the holistic body, which is the way it was meant to be done.
I can see a lot of body workers projecting this onto their screen and or their clients as they're in there for their ultimate experience using Mag Healy. And so, as he's saying, all 3 of these devices are synergistic and complementary. And Doc, this has just been incredible.
And they actually work synergistic in that they empower one another. So using, for example, the Mag Healy and the coil at the same time gives you a better effect ultimately than just using them separately. They have a magnifying effect when they're used together.
And I guess I want to ask just one last thing. I know we're really close to time, but the coaching module and the Bach flowers and the Australian gem elixirs and so forth that we're the homeopathy, which he was just discussing. We have 2 different apps. One's the blue dot for a lot of these energetic frequencies, and then we have the pink dot app, not to confuse everyone, but there's just 2 apps. Can you share just a little bit about, I've been using coaching module and these energetic frequencies recently with great results.
And coaching module is amazing. I mean, when I first got it, I also have, with all my other medical degrees here, I also have a master's in psych, in counseling psychology. So, and I add that into, when it's needed in my office, in my practice, because people will come in, it's not just about the body, but it's about anything that affects the body. And so I wanted to try it out with some people when I first got it. And there were some patients of mine that actually came in, and when we were talking, they were saying they were having difficulty with personal relationships and the inability to maintain them. And so I said, would you like to try something out? Because I'm really interested in seeing how this works. And they said, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I remember running it on 2 particular patients about their inability of maintaining a solid partnerships and relationships. and I got the information by running, the program, what the blocks were, and I did some counseling using the information. And both of them said the same thing to me. It was so funny because they said it, different times, but identically. I can't believe this. I've been working with a therapist for a year, and
Yeah.
you in 30 minutes got to the core of my issue and was able to walk me through it and see an endpoint where they haven't even gotten to that place. And once you told me what it was, it's like a light bulb went off in my head, and I knew exactly where it came from in my life when I was younger, how that's affected me, and now I know how to get out of this. And it was like, I just tried it for a 20, 30-minute session with two people, and I walked them through a year's worth of counseling therapy by doing that. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of the counseling program. And the other favorite program I like is it's called the, what's the name of it? Strike again, homeopathic.
Creative homeopathy.
Creative homeopathic program, because that program, it's sort of, you can use it in conjunction with the counseling program.
It's fierce, you guys. Be careful.
Yes, be careful. So the first time I used that program,
enter only if you really want to know.
I almost fell off my chair because what it does is it unveils to you your shadow side.
That's right.
Okay. The side of you that you keep hidden and tucked away from everybody. And it's the side that usually you've established from childhood that runs in the background and nobody knows but you. And when I ran that program and I saw all my secrets, I said, oh my God, how does this thing know all my deepest, darkest secrets? This is crazy. So yeah, use it at your own risk in terms of doing that. But we really, with this small little, device, this gives us so much. It's amazing how it gives us so much power to do so many things, to heal our bodies, bring us into a state of balance, the way we interact with the world. I mean, the devices I use, they're like, they're professional devices, and they cost like $20,000, like the Timewaver and the other device I use. But these devices, I mean, and right now, the month of July, that 50% off sale is just absolutely, to me, incredible.
And
to
you
be
can
able
use
to get a professional Healy for like $2,000, or even one, like the Resonance, for $1,200 to me, it's mind-boggling that we're able to have a device that does so much for so little.
And you can use it anytime, anywhere. Right. You don't have to drive to go to a practitioner. Nope. You can really begin to understand yourself and be able to really dive in a way that is just so profound. I mean, I know I'm full tilt. I know Doc's full tilt. And what was so amazing about our Orlando experience was just so many vibrant souls. I mean, we were surrounded by 200 Healys on top of probably 10 or so mag Healys. Right. And then everyone else's individual frequency, I mean, I was shifted. In a really,
like I said earlier, self-care is the new healthcare. And what makes Healy so different than any other community that I've been with is that, everyone in the community is looking to support everybody else. There's that energy of service. There's that energy of how can we help mankind as a whole. And that's really, Marcus's vision, which is to have a Healy in every home to balance ourselves and allow our planet to be balanced. And so, his vision is taking hold out there. We've already sold, from what I've heard, is, over 400,000 Healys, which is a lot of Healys. And this is just the beginning, in the second year here. So, like I said, I'm so thankful and grateful to be aligned with a company that has such an amazing consciousness that's attached to it, and to have Marcus as our leader. And he's such an incredible human being. With such a great vision for humanity, and it just aligns with all of my personal principles. So, like I said, it's a joy to be part of this.
Yeah, and it's really Marcus's spiritual quest, your spiritual quest that you both aligned with, the mission that is Healy. There's so much out there right now. There's so much noise, if you will. And this is an opportunity, to look deeply into from top to bottom. Looking at the integrity of our mission, of our founders, of the leaders in our company. Karen says Doc Steve, can you do this more often, please? Loved everything you shared. He will be with Mei Chung next
That's right.
up.
I was just, because of you, Cassie, I was just invited today to be with Mei Chung on Thursday morning to do a planetary Zoom dealing with specifically focusing on the differences between the Healy and the Mag Healy. So we're going to go into more depth on that level, and that's going to be this Thursday. And May's put out already a lot of the links out there, so they're floating around. And
I'll put the link also in the chat.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I love to teach. I mean, it's been one of those things that
Hi, Dina Ricker. Glad you could make it.
It's because the way I look at it is I can only touch so many people on a daily basis in my practice based on the time that I have. But when I teach in a group like this, or I teach other practitioners, then I expand the reach of what my knowledge can go out to. So I've always loved to teach, and I actually, you know, I'm the dean of the International Medical University of Natural Education, and so I get the benefit of traveling all over the world on a regular basis, teaching doctors, you know, getting them involved in the whole idea of the functional medicine, the energetic medicine, and working in this realm. And it's just a joy to be able to, especially when somebody comes in that is just a, you know, traditional doc using pharmaceuticals, and they hear me speak, and it awakens something inside of them that says, you know what, am I really healing my patients? Or am I only just keeping them in a status quo?
Right.
Because this guy sounds like what he does in his practice on a daily basis is he really heals his patients. I better check into this. So, you know, I attend every year, and this year was very special to me because I brought forward for the first time Healy to the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine Conference, which is a once-a-year conference held in Las Vegas, always in December. And I've been going for the last 25 years since the very first one. And I remember the first one I went to, there may have been 100 docs there in this entire conference. And now we have usually in attendance somewhere in the vicinity of like 10,000 doctors from around the world that come to Vegas in December to participate in this. And we were able to have a big Healy booth this year and introduce our work to all of these you know, physicians out there that were looking for the next biggest thing to start to incorporate into their practices and stuff. And it was just so, you know, rewarding for me to turn so many of these docs onto what we're doing and see, you know, their level of excitement of actually finding out something that they've been looking for. They knew there was something out there. They just didn't know where to find it. And we had it out there for them. And it's been great. And one particular circumstance was a physician who was actually presenting at the conference, who was a child psychologist. And when she came to our booth and table, she said, oh my God, she said, I hate doing what I do every day. I have to put these little 6 and 7 and 8-year-old kids on prescription medication for anxiety and depression and attention deficit disorder and all of this stuff. And I hate it, but I have no other way of dealing with it. And I presented the Healy to her and showed her how she could do the exact same thing without having to use medication, but to use Healy instead. And she was sold immediately. And so I'm looking forward to seeing and working with her again. She's in Canada, and we just opened Canada at the beginning of the week. So that's the kind of thing I love to do, is to turn, you know, traditional docs onto the new, you know, realms of what society wants and where we're really headed to.
My business partner and colleague, Andrea Page, she works as a cancer alchemist, and she's been utilizing Healy and integrating it into her practice. She's a functional medicine doctor, and, you know, she describes it as empowerment medicine. And what's so exciting is that Healy will be here for this next generation of the young ones.
Yes.
And there's so many mothers, incredible mothers that are in our community that are bringing this to the next generation. And just like you said, you know, it'll be really empowerment medicine, if you want to call it that, but what a change this will bring.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, I really feel blessed. You know, right place, right time, just came forward in a meditation, and look what I created out of that meditation.
And you said 10,000, you had 10,000 customers within, I don't know, or how?
I started to back in 2019. I decided that I really wanted to get the word out after I saw what the power was that it could do. And so I immediately started doing Zooms with friends and family and colleagues, and the word got out. And I started doing 2 to 3 Zooms a week. And it kept getting exploding. And after I knew it, I looked, I had never been in this type of marketing before. This is the first time in my life that I got into social sharing situation. And the next thing I knew, within 3 months, I was a director in Healy, and I already had 10,000 people in my network, my personal network. So it was amazing to see how the people out there really are dying for this information. They really want this, and now they have a place to go to tap into it. And it's easy, and it's inexpensive. It's everything you want it to be. So it's been really great.
Thank you, Doc Steve, so much for joining us. There's so much that we covered, you guys. I'm going to go through, and we talked about the Mag Healy, all the programs that Mag Healy has. We're going to post about his Holoceuticals endeavor that's just launching today. I'll go through and do my best to answer as many questions as everyone has. Stay tuned for his next talk with Mei Chung on the 14th. And thanks, Doc, so much.
I believe it's 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, and there are links. And again, if anyone is interested in personally working with me, I'm always available to do that.
I'm gonna drop his email in the chat.
This is my, I'll leave it with this at the end here.
Yes.
I just turned 70, as I said. And so what do you think the most obvious question I get every day when people come in to see me? Well, it's, when are you going to retire? Because, there's an assumption out there with age, and, when people retire at 65 or whatever, 70 these days. And I say to them, that word is not in my vocabulary. And the reason that word is not in my vocabulary is that I am one of the very blessed people that when I wake up every day in the morning, I get to do my passion. I don't know how many people out there actually do, because I always hear of people that hate their job and hate what they do in life. And yet every single day I get to do my passion. I wake up and healing is my passion. And so when people say to me, when are you going to retire? I go, I don't even see that happening. I mean, thankfully I'll be around really, really long. And at this point in time, that word is not in my vision these days. Because I can't imagine doing anything else when I wake up every day. This is what I've done for 45 years, and hopefully I'll continue to do this for another, who knows how many years. But running the Healy anti-aging programs, I'm hoping it's going to be a long time.
Wonderful to
and
have.
I see you just grabbed your little baby there, so I'm
my little baby. Yeah.
For 1 second.
Yeah, please. We have a rainstorm approaching, and the only thing that gets her upset are ladybugs, wasps, and thunder.
My guy.
Oh, how sweet.
Teddy.
Oh, hi, Teddy.
Hi, everyone out there.
Say Sadie.
Teddy's my therapy dog, and he works in the office with me. So
absolutely.
When patients come in, he calms them down. He knows how to do that, and he loves the Healy.
He loves the Healy.
I didn't mention the fact that the animal programs are amazing. This somehow got clicked on here, so I apologize. But the animal programs are amazing, and I'll tell you, we just had 4th of July here, and I live at the beach, so you can only imagine it's the dreaded time of the year for me, because he goes nuts. He hates loud noises, and so I ran the Healy. I clipped it to him. I have the Healy animal programs, and I ran a lot of the Bach flower programs. I ran a scan on him to see which ones he needed, and the obvious ones showed up. That were the Bach flower remedies for fear and things of that nature. And I just clipped it to his collar, and I ran it. And I'll tell you, he really chilled. So we even have the Healy for our animals and our pets out there, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, in fact, Sadie jumped the other day, and her little paw went sideways a bit and tore a little tendon in her arm. And so I ran the stem cells. I ran a scan, and then ran the scan in the blue dot, and then I started running things for tissue and bones, and within 24 hours she was back to chipper and running around, and it was fabulous.
Interestingly enough, Teddy had an ACL injury a couple of months ago, and we took him to the vet, and they said, well, you know, you may have to do surgery on him. And I said, no, that word doesn't exist in my practice. It's a last resort. I said, but I have some things that I can do with him first to make sure. And so, of course, I put the harness on, the animal harness, and I started running the microcurrent programs, you know, for tendons. And I'll tell you, after a couple of sessions, I could tell that it was healing, and he has brought him back to the vet. They checked him out. I said, what do you think? And the vet said, well, based upon what I see now, he doesn't need anything to happen. I said, well, guess what? I worked on him with a special microcurrent process. And I really believe that's what helped my leg also helped his leg. So yeah, it's great for animals. It's really great for animals. They don't block stuff like humans do.
Right.
It's really cool to be able to do that.
Well, Doc, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. We're going to get this
Thank you.
link out to everyone, and blessings to you and all that your entire endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Very good.
All right.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Have a good night. Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.